Southern Maryland vegan events, and for today's video segment, I kind of want to change it up a little bit, and instead of doing something in the kitchen or cooking, we're going to talk about food, so don't worry about that. But I actually want to do an interview with a dear friend of mine, Starla Maurer, and oh my gosh, I think when I moved here 6 years ago, we were both, I was trying to think the other day, like how exactly did we come together?
Oh, we came together because we were both at Small. We were doing,
which is St. Mary's Animal Welfare League.
Yeah, we were both volunteering for Small, and
that's right.
We were doing a class on how to wrangle cats and give them medication without getting tore up ourselves.
And somebody said that I was a vegan coming, and so as soon as we found that out about each other, we were like, we're best friends.
We were like, another vegan, there's another vegan in the area. Because I really felt like the lone vegan here in Southern Maryland. So,
and that is definitely not the case any longer, but
no.
that is our start and kind of how we're here today. And on a side note, we were hoping to do this at the Leonardtown Wharf and outside and get some fresh air for a little bit, but the weather really isn't cooperating today. So we are inside the clubhouse in the Clarks Rest neighborhood. So I really want to give a special shout out, thank you to Mike Jakes for the last minute letting us borrow the clubhouse today, so I really appreciate that. So
yeah,
we're still in Leonardtown, but
we're still in Leonardtown, but we're not sitting at the wharf.
Yeah. So with that said, I kind of just want to let Starla do most of the talking because she has an incredible story to tell, and she actually was featured, and you guys might even recognize her because she's kind of a local celebrity.
No.
She was featured in the January 2019 issue, right?
Yes.
Of Veg News magazine. This one, in case you guys actually may already have it, and if you don't, the article is online. So if you just type in Veg News, Starla Maurer, it'll pop right up, and you can read the article about her and her husband in there. So it's really it's great. We'll touch on some of that, but I wanted to show you guys out, let you guys know that. First of all, so I have some questions for you. This is so awkward because we're such good friends.
I know.
We're always cutting up and laughing, so I'm like, okay, I gotta be.
Yeah, we have to be professional today.
But I really want her to be able to tell her story, tell the story, the journey that her and her husband have been on, and how veganism has truly changed and affected your life, your whole family's life in so many ways, so many positive ways, what you've learned along the way. And she in particular is a fitness and workout enthusiast, and is just, that in and of itself is like, blows us all out of the water in terms of what she's just doing in a day is like the amount I do in a year. So I want her to touch on that too. So without further ado, I have some questions for you, but I think that we'll probably just naturally cover a lot of stuff in the evolution of talking about things. But as I guess just to kind of give an overview, starting out, general question, as a health and fitness conscious vegan, what was your aha moment that made you realize there's no going back?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when I can work out. Okay, so for instance, because of this COVID and because of the weather, here in Southern Maryland, I love to ride my bike. So I'm a huge cycle enthusiast, and realistically, because I teach fitness classes, I like to ride my bike by myself because it's my time. I'm not worrying about teaching classes. I'm not worried about is everybody getting a good workout. When I teach, it's their workout. When I work out alone, it's my workout. So I had a Peloton, and we've sort of been stuck in we've all been stuck in the house. And, obviously, Southern Maryland, it gets cold. So I decided on my Peloton, there was this ride. And one of the instructors does this ride that mimics Haleakala volcano in Maui. So the entire ride is 5 one-hour classes, and you can do them whenever you want, but the big thing to do is to sort of string them together. So I literally set up one morning, started at 6 in the morning, and I started my rides, and I would take 5 minutes between the first and second ride, 5 minutes between the second and third ride, and then I had to take like a 15-minute break because I needed to eat. So it ended up being about 6 hours. So I did the entire Haleakala climb between 6 in the morning, and by noon I was finished. And I'm 58, almost 59 years old, and I really don't know of very many other people that can do things like that. So it's the simple fact that I can really grind it out and hustle, and I have nothing. I mean, I literally, do I take supplements? I don't do shakes because I don't like them. I think I did 2 years of bodybuilding and I was like, I'm really good on the shakes. But I do use like a glutamine powder, and that helps with muscle recovery, and that really is something I've just started because being at home, there's really not a lot to do, and I love to work out, so I've been working out. So that, way back when, that is the one thing that I noticed. I could go faster.
Your endurance and
yes, harder, stronger, longer. I could go. And people are shocked because I'm not supposed to outrun the 20-year-olds or outmove all these people. And the thing is it really helps. And the other thing is before I was vegan, because I've been a fitness instructor for 40 years, but because of all of that, I've had, over the years, 3 knee surgeries, 2 ankle surgeries, vocal cord surgery, shoulder surgery. Well, the shoulder I did. The shoulder probably was overworked, but I did pick up my 85-pound dog, and that's when it tore. But I've had all these surgeries. Yeah.
It's for your dogs.
It's for the dogs. It didn't matter. But the thing is that I don't, that joint pain is gone. And I was really on a lot. I mean, I can't even take Advil anymore because my system is just so, I just don't take it. There's just no need for me
Your
to take it.
system is so clean.
Yeah.
You
There's
know? You don't have the inflammation that you used to have.
No, and that's the big thing with being vegan is it's an anti-inflammatory diet. So all the crap that people take and all the garbage that, I'm taking Advil, I take Tylenol, I do this, that just goes away. And the thing is it's not sort of an aha moment, but it's more of you wake up one day and you're like, gosh, I'm not sore.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that you haven't been getting sore like you did. So, and that's what really happened for me is I haven't had those aches and pains that I used to have.
I can relate to that so much because I used to have, or what I thought was fibromyalgia and all these joint pains constantly. I was constantly in and out of the doctor, feeling achy and flu-like and sick. And once I went vegan, I didn't put 2 and 2 together because I wasn't thinking about the whole health aspect of everything because it was strictly from the animals. But it wasn't until later on that I was like, oh my gosh, all that stuff, all those aches and pains went away on their own without anything. And it just is mind blowing how that can happen.
And the thing is you become very aware of what goes into your body and the subtle changes that happen when you do put something in your body that's not, that just shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to go into if, God forbid, somebody slips you something and you eat it and there's an animal product in it, your system will
tell you.
Yeah, it'll let you know like that.
Yeah.
It's I had that experience.
I think a lot of us have, but it just goes to show that it's your body saying this is toxic. This is a before in some
Right.
ways. I'm not supposed to process this.
Mm-hmm.
So when you haven't had it for a long time and then it gets reintroduced inadvertently or accidentally, it's like your body is going, look, I was doing so great without
Right.
this, so get out of here. I'm gonna let you know so you don't forget it. And
You become very efficient. Your system becomes very efficient. And the heavy just junk people eat and the drive-through and this and that. Listen, I'm all down for a good French fry or some potato chips, but I will tell you, it has to be very, very small in small quantities, because anything else, and my system's like, we can't process this. And then I usually have a stomachache and I'm whining, so.
get it. So I guess kind of on that note, in terms of how you feel now and everything, explain a bit about your family background, and while you and your siblings share a hereditary and genetic bond, your physical health couldn't be more opposite ends of the spectrum.
Well, so this is a whole other story in itself. I was adopted as a child and as an infant, and I had phenomenal parents, by the way. They were very Irish, meat and potatoes, and that was how I was brought up. But just 2 years ago, I found my biological family, and we all look alike, and we all sort of have those same genetic factors. And unfortunately, everyone in my family has high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There are 2, 3 are diabetic. My mom is not. However, my mom had to have a lap band surgery because she was very, very, very heavy. They all have like anxiety and depression and things like that, and I'm in the middle. I'm smack dab in the middle. My mom has 7 children, and I am number 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. So, and it was funny. Just recently, my brother said, "Well, oh yeah, Starla, I have to do the shots," and I'm like, "Tony, why don't we look at your diet?" "Oh no, I'll just take a pill, I'll be fine." But see, here's the problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna take a pill, but you're not changing anything in the way you eat or your exercise. And believe me, my family is totally allergic to exercise. They wouldn't lift a weight if one was crushing them to death. And it's pretty funny, because they're always like, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And then it's like around the clock. But
I think that's very relatable though.
yeah, people just don't want to move.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, especially like when you go over 50, most people just really get super sedentary, and they're just like, "Oh God, I don't want to do that." But that's not me. That's never been me. I've never fit the mold. So when I did go vegan, it was through a program that it was when I had shoulder surgery. I had nothing else to do. And they told me, I thought I was going to be home for 6 weeks. It was 6 months. Yeah, 6 months at home, which I didn't completely finish. So whatever, but that's on a whole other thing. But I was really limited, and so PCRM, which is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And if you have not heard of them, oh my gosh, PCRM.org. They have the most phenomenal articles. And this is where Dr. Neil Barnard is the head of. And Barnard Clinic, these are my doctors. And they're plant-based doctors, and they believe in food as medicine. And
They're in DC, by the way.
Yeah, DC. They're right across the street from Channel 5. So, and if you really want to see what PCRM looks like, there's a brand new movie on Amazon that you can rent or buy. I bought it yesterday. It's called Code Blue, and it's talking about food as medicine and how it changes things. I really highly recommend that you see that. But Dr. Barnard's on it. Dr. Loomis, who's in charge of the, he's in charge of Barnard Clinic, and he is on the movie The Game Changers, and he's amazing. He's a really sweet guy. Really, really like him. But I went to this program because I was selected, just randomly selected, to be part of their government study on the effects of low-fat vegan diet, which is very different than just a vegan diet. Low-fat vegan is what I am. I'm a low-fat vegan. And low-fat vegan diet and metabolism. So I have a really high metabolism to begin with, and Dr. Hannah, who is she was in charge of this study, and she was running everything. She said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody's metabolism quite as fast as yours. And which was amazing because it just got faster. But so I was in that, and I was also in a study at the same time that was running at the same time, and they were borrowing some participants, but I was selected to go to Yale University, and I was part of the Yale study of low-fat vegan diet and type 2 diabetes and very high A1C, which is the numbers that sort of put you into that diabetic range. And within 6 weeks, I was off all migraine medicine, blood pressure medicine. My A1C was just tapping at the door of being put on like metformin for diabetes. And so my A1C is completely down in the normal range. My cholesterol dropped drastically all the way down. So now the only medication I take is, like I said, I take a supplement for hair and nails. Little vain. So, no, but I take a supplement for hair and nails, and I take the glutamine as a recovery, and then, and this is part of that story, but I do take a probiotic, because if I don't take it, my husband's not going to take his.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, it's not going to hurt me,
Yeah.
so just do it. So
I'm a big believer in probiotics.
yeah, so I just did the probiotics, and then I just couldn't believe, because I had dropped like 32 pounds going just right through, and I know I'm sort of built like a little square, like a little powerhouse, and but I will tell you, it's just amazing because I can't believe the output I have in generating power on, on my Peloton, on how long I can go out riding my bike. Last year, I had a small window of time in June, and I ride my bike to raise awareness for children's cancer and raise funding. So last year, I did 810 miles in 3 weeks, during the first 3 weeks in June. And so it was at least 50 miles or more a day on my, either outside, and if I didn't make the miles outside, I was down in my basement just pedaling away on, I had a Schwinn spinner, so I have a spinning bike. We upgraded this year.
It's fantastic. And
Yeah.
and there was never an issue of you're not getting enough protein in order to.
I don't need any protein. Protein, and that's a myth, guys. You don't need protein. You can get proteins in plants. I mean, eat your green leafy vegetables and you're there. And not only are you getting that, but you're getting your vitamin C. You're getting all the
Your fiber.
nutrients. Yes, and fiber. Oh my gosh. Beans are the best thing for fiber. And please don't say it gives you gas. Because really, realistically, it's not the beans. If you rinse them, you're good. And the other thing is, a lot of times people think that we as vegans, all I do is eat salad and bark. And that's furthest from the truth. But there's a lot of fiber in the food we eat. So, and a lot of times, this is what I learned at PCRM, is people would come in and they were complaining about, stomach distress, they felt bloated or whatever. And what it was they weren't cooking their vegetables. You just need to steam them at first. Your system adjusts.
Yeah, your system has to adjust to a healthier way of eating too, because just like anything, it's gonna be a shock to the system. So yeah, I've heard so many people say I felt crappy initially. What's wrong with this? This isn't what it was.
Well, your system's detoxing.
Your system has to get rid of all the junk before it can start to really absorb the good.
Yeah. And it doesn't take that long. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it takes about a week of detox to get all the garbage out of your system. It's this that has to change. And I always tell people, listen, if you go from, gosh, I'm a meat and potatoes kind of girl, you know, and then all of a sudden I want to be 100% vegan, well, of course, you're going to have an issue with nothing tastes good. Well, that's because you have so much garbage, you've been eating so much trash, that your palate has to get used to what real food tastes like. And one of the things that we always discuss is people saying, oh, it's so expensive to be a vegan. But it's not. That's a myth. Everybody has, most of the time,
I mean, how cheap are beans?
Yes, beans
especially
are
if
really.
you're buying them in bulk. I mean, they're so versatile, and there's so many different ways you can disguise them and do different things. That's like the cheapest thing on the planet.
Yeah, beans and rice. And the thing is 1 cup of beans a day fulfills your fiber requirement. But the thing is you want to throw beans and stuff because beans get you to feel full because of the fiber. And so that's why we do the beans. And I don't do white rice, I do brown rice, and I do more of the quinoa and things like that. Those are things that you start to really crave. And quinoa is higher in protein. Beans are higher in protein than beef.
Yeah, there's more protein in a serving of beans than there is in a traditional serving of chicken.
Yeah.
But we're just told, you know, that that's not true. And every single commercial you see, well, not as much now because people are recognizing how important plants are and not eating animals is, but we've been told all our lives, and we all know this, and can relate to the fact that all you hear growing up and constantly is you need to eat animals for protein, and you need to drink dairy from cows to get calcium, and you know, the list goes on. But just because we've been told that forever doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, and to be honest, drinking cow's milk is calcium leaching as opposed to building. If you really want your calcium, go eat some broccoli. And there you go. And we always laugh, we never see vegans in the hospital. Unless we're in there, you know.
With the cat bite.
Yeah.
I'm always in there for that.
Yeah, she has cat bites. I got bit by a cat one time.
Yeah. When was the last time you actually heard a doctor go, oh, I have, you know, a bunch of sick vegans in here that have a protein deficiency? You're not going to hear that. Like, it just isn't going to be on.
Those are all silly myths.
But speaking of hospitals,
yeah,
we're gonna touch back on this here in a second. But speaking of hospitals and the extensive experience that you've had with that, I've had with that with my dad, and give us kind of a rundown of Rick's journey, because I have a follow-up question with that too. So
okay, so while I was in this study, the study that I was in PCRM, I was in I actually started the beginning of January 2017. And now let me just back up a little. I was vegan, I was not low-fat vegan, and that there is a difference. Low-fat vegan, it's very, very limited in fats, and I mean avocado, and you could have heard, I mean, there was a hush fell over the room, and when Dr. Barnard said no avocados, there was a roar, everybody flipped out. But I don't cook with oil, ever. Very limited avocados, and I love them, but I try to limit them to like maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and I limit how much I eat. And that's because like Elizabeth can eat tons of avocados, and I can't. We have different body types, and our bodies work differently, so things I eat, she won't, and if things she can, I won't. vegans, just like everybody else. Vegans aren't all alike. But while I was in this program was 10 weeks long, and we had to do this, and you had to go through all this testing at the beginning and at the end. So one of the rules was you could not miss a meeting. So I was there, I was the Wednesday night 6 p.m. person. And right about that time, my husband and I were having our wedding anniversary, which was in February, and I had called this restaurant it's in Calvert County, and if you ever want to go there, they're amazing. The chef cooks exactly what you want, and yes, they do low-fat vegan meals. You just tell them what you need. So we were going to West Lawn Inn, and it's in Chesapeake Beach. So we were going to go to dinner there, and my husband and I were walking around the hardware store, and he was gray. And I said, what is the matter? And he'd sort of been complaining that he had a stomach ache, and he had gone to the doctor, gone to urgent care, and they told him, oh, you probably have a kidney stone. And we were like, well, okay. So they gave him antibiotics, and he was getting worse. And so finally we went, I said, you have to go to the emergency room. In the emergency room that night, he was on so much medication, so much pain meds, and he was just in incredible pain. And they said, well, we see a little leak here. We think it's your appendix. So tomorrow we're going to do all these tests and stuff. And so, okay, fine. We go in the next day, and we went for CT, and I thought it was going to take a long time, and I was prepared to sit and wait, and they were out there within 10 minutes, and I thought, oh, this isn't good. So I went in, nobody would look at me, and I thought, oh, I know what's going on. So they had it up on the screen, and Rick had colon cancer, and we found out it was stage 3C colon cancer, and the leak was the cancer had punctured a hole in his intestines, and it was leaking into his gut. And so the next day they had scheduled an emergency colostomy. So Rick had part of his intestine right here, and so that was taken out, and they had basically had a bag. And so, being the smart ass that I am, I named it Stanley. So it was like, I was like, well, if I have to help him clean it, so we found out that, obviously he had cancer. So they gave him the colostomy, and he was using the bag. And he finally came home after being in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. And we knew he was going to have to start chemotherapy, and we didn't realize the extent it was. And it was a tough road. Rick would go in, we would go in on a Wednesday morning, and it was always Wednesdays, because we would go in on a Wednesday morning, go into the hospital, he would infuse for about 5 hours, and would leave the hospital, and they would give him it was a thing like this big, so a big push of the drug 5-FU, and he would come home, and a nurse from Hopkins would meet us, and then they would hook up this canister, and it looked like a sippy cup, like a kid would have a sippy cup around his neck. It looked like a sippy cup, and he would infuse for 48 hours, and then Friday afternoon I would take him off. We did this every other week for 6 months. And during this time, when we first went into his oncologist, the nurse, who turned out to be a friend of mine, said, let him eat what he wants. And I'm like, oh no, he's not gonna eat what he wants. You cure the cancer and I will take care of the rest. Because I was also, at the time, in school for holistic medicine. So I sort of gathered, and I had this holistic and allopathic team working together, and then if anybody was going to have cancer at that time, it was the best time for Rick, because I was still going to these meetings. So what happened was, part of chemical reaction that he was doing for the chemo was he would get neuropathy. And so Rick would lose the taste in his mouth, couldn't taste anything. And he really couldn't drink anything cold because it was like drinking glass. Couldn't touch anything cold, fingers and toes were always numb. So what I soon sort of discovered was that when we would go and eat my diet, when he would eat the things I was eating, he could taste them. And we also noticed not only could he taste them, but he never got sick. He never missed a day of work because he would work in the unit. You know, from there, he had his little station set up, and I had my homework station set up. We were always together. But he never lost his hair. He never got sick. He never missed work. His energy would usually by Friday afternoon start to be waning down. I would take him off. We would have our little snacks. And, you know, and by a snack, I mean like we'd have some fresh fruit or whatever. And it was almost like you could just see him getting energized again. And the doctors were shocked. The staff and the other patients started to notice that, you know, he's never sick. And they were, I mean, I felt so bad for some of them because they would come in there just completely green and just not feel well. And they were like, oh my gosh, your food smells so good. And as a matter of fact, when like a year and a half later, Rick had the reversal. So the colostomy had gone away. Some friends and we went down into the lunchroom at Calvert Memorial, and we had our vegan food. We actually had a crowd around the table. What do you got that smells so good? And I was like, it's vegan, you don't want it, you don't want it. But I mean, his oncologist has said he's never seen anything like what Rick has gone through. And he said, every time I see you guys, you look younger. And he was like, I always look like I'm not rested. He was like, eat our way.
Yeah.
So the thing is it just shows you that you don't need to eat all this stuff. You can't wash the chemicals out of meat or dairy. You can't clean that stuff away. So if you're trying to keep yourself living longer, then you need to eat things that are from the earth, and you know, plants and beans and legumes and things like that. You don't need to eat an animal because chances are they've been pumped through with a lot of drugs and unnecessary things. I mean, let's be realistic. You know, how do you get a 50-pound calf into a 500-pound steer? I mean, it's not, it happens very quickly. And if you guys really think about it, close your eyes. How many chicken breasts are really that big? It's not. It's full of hormones, and you can't wash that thing out. And especially if somebody is going through any kind of health issue, the thing is with cancer, any kind of cancer, you don't want it to grow. And everything you're eating has been pumped full of hormones to make it grow. So what are you doing? You're fighting a losing battle. And one of the things that we had talked with Rick's oncologist, who is Dr. Ahmed at Calvert Hospital, and he said he's now treating families that have cancer, mother, sister, brother, because it's the way people have been trained to eat. It's not because everybody in the house, you know, is living by the power plant or anything else like that. What it is it's your daily habits, and it's the things that you do that are the same. They're familial. It's, you know, you do the same thing every day. Well, I've always done it like this. Oh.
And then it builds up in your system.
Yeah, it's you can't. The thing is if you want to take, the animals have always been a part of it for me. I've been an animal lover since I was a child. But to watch someone that you really love go through chemotherapy and realize that I don't care if I had to shake a chicken naked under a full moon, I would do what I can to help my husband go through this. And realistically, it's food. It's what you put in your mouth that really, yes, the drugs cured the cancer. But Rick never lost any muscle tone, nothing. He never slowed down. We would walk 5 miles, like 4 or 5 times a week, on his canister or not.
I know, I would see him and be like, are you real? Like, is this all for real?
Yeah, nobody would ever believe, no one, and the
You
funny
look too
thing,
good.
yeah, nobody ever thought he was sick, because they said, and you would see these pasty looking people coming in, and so they finally started asking me, what are you guys doing? And we just said, we're following the low-fat vegan diet. And the thing is like I said, you don't all have to be low-fat vegan, and I always say, just lean into things, start replacing a meal. And the thing with Rick was, he could taste my food, because it wasn't full of
So
junk.
he's getting the nourishment that he needs because he actually can eat,
Yes.
and he's eating things that, because most people on chemotherapy don't want to eat, so then you're losing out on nutrition too. And then when you do, and you're eating stuff that isn't good for you, then it's just this constant, like what she was just saying, it's just constant fighting against each other. But
Right.
he's actually not losing his taste and then fortifying himself with the proper nutrition and vitamins, nutrients, everything he needs in order to help, sustain himself from the damage that chemo does to our body. As much as great as it is, it's also...
It does. It does. It kills all the cells, the cancer cells, but it also kills the good cells.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that the thing is, you're either fighting disease or you're fueling disease. We're gonna fight it, and like I said, my family, they're on multitudes of medications, and I'm not.
Speaking of, just with everything with Rick and your experience with hospitals and everything, what was most surprising about your experience with hospital nutrition or lack thereof when it came to Rick's illness and prognosis? And I think you touched on this, but still just looking back, and we talk about this all the time because we get so frustrated with it, but how alarming was it to see how much that isn't a priority?
Well, unfortunately, doctors don't get any, nutrition training. They get an hour, I was told, in medical school, maybe an hour. And the thing is, in a hospital, I'm always just floored, but especially in a unit where you're infusing. So we're, at the hospital. And please don't bash Calvert Hospital, because they're just freaking amazing and they just do wonderful work. However, I was just like constantly scratching my head when the first thing they brought him to eat. So here's Rick and just this big room, and everybody's doing the same thing. All these people that are hooked, and it's just stuff dripping and moving everywhere. And in they come with a cheeseburger, potato chips, and there was a cup of fruit, maybe that big, and they had hot tea with white sugar, which, white sugar just feeds cancer, so whatever. So they had that, and then some sort of white, and I'm gonna guess it was soup, but it sort of looked like paste, like wallpaper paste. And I was like, wow, this is disgusting. And so I said, why are you giving my husband a cheeseburger? And Rick took a bite of it, and he was like, oh, this tastes funny. And that's another side effect of chemotherapy, things taste different. And he couldn't eat it. And there's actually, I have a picture of him going, eating the soup. And so they said, well, he could have a salad. It was a chef salad, and it was like covered with this, like a cream dressing, and I was like, oh my God. So I asked Dr. Barnard, and he said, that is the biggest thing that they're trying to fight now with hospitals, is the nutritional aspect that goes with it. And we actually, at one point, when Rick was in he had to have different surgeries and stuff surrounding all this. But one time he went in and the dietitian, she goes, "Oh, you're not a vegetarian, are you?"
No.
and Rick goes, "No, we're vegan." And we just left it like that. And so they stormed out, and they were good about trying to get him what he needed, but thanks to Alyssa and her bag of goodies. So he had food there that he could eat, and I was sneaking him in like shakes, different kinds of shakes, and they were, I used some stuff called athletic greens, and I was sneaking in this stuff to him, and they were saying, don't, we want you on a low residual diet, which means not a lot of fiber when he was reconnected. And poor Rick felt horrible, and it wasn't until we came home and I said, "Oh, forget it, let's just eat what we normally eat." And the minute that happened, he was fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little disheartening, but I think the thing is, in a hospital, first of all, if you are in a hospital, you're not gonna feel good or feel like eating, but I mean, really, take control of your health.
Yeah.
It's your right to be fed nutritious food and be fed things that will, sustain your body while fighting disease. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of vegans in the hospital. Unless you're like me and you fall and break something. Pick up your 85-pound dog. But I mean, that has nothing to do with being vegan,
Yeah.
other than and by the way, because I am vegan, the shoulder surgery that normally should have taken 6 months took 3 to heal, and I can actually plank and tap my shoulders.
It truly is amazing, and it's just a testament to the power of plants, the power of food. And the good thing though is that I think a lot of things are progressing that we're seeing with the work that PCRM is doing, and the way that they are. I think California passed a law where they have to incorporate plant-based foods into all hospitals.
Yeah, and I know that
Brooklyn has I think it's one of their one of their commissioners is like huge into promoting plant-based medical
and I think
nutrition and things like that. So
yeah, I
it's
think there's Hopkins has an entire vegan setup for people
But you
who
gotta
want that.
ask, and that's
Yeah.
something too, yeah. Like, you're not necessarily going to, it's not always gonna be the first thing that is gonna be offered to you. You really have to ask about it as well. And like you
Yeah.
were saying, take your health into your...
You have to take control of your own health, because you have to advocate for yourself or your spouse or your children. That's just all there is to it. There's no playing around with this. This is your health, and ask questions and ask, why do I have to do this? And and you just want to make sure that if you do have some issues, okay, get them taken care of, but at the same time, don't feed the disease. So yeah.
Trying to think if there's touched on a lot of great stuff. We covered that one already. And maybe this will touch on this too. So this is kind of a long-winded question, but you'll see the point. So many of us, we talk about this all the time too. Many of us come into veganism for different reasons, whether it's to no longer contribute to animal cruelty or to help combat climate change, since animal agriculture is a leading cause of environmental destruction and climate change, or for health concerns and to fight against diseases directly linked to animal consumption, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, various cancers, the list goes on, and we touched on too. So now, as a result of COVID and our exposure to how horrific meat packing plants and slaughterhouses are, for both the animals and for humans, we're all seeing how our food system is flawed and unsustainable on many, many levels. We've been given such direct access and exposure on every single media channel over the last few weeks of just what our reliance on eating animals is doing, and how it leads to disease, and how it leads to shortages in food, and how awful it is for the people that have to work there, the conditions that they're in addition to how horrific it is for the animals. And we've all seen this firsthand, and it's things that you can never get out of your head. So my question is, what do you think should be done on a local level here in our pocket of the planet in Southern Maryland to raise more awareness and to help folks learn more about and to gain better access to animal-free foods?
Well, I think the biggest thing is if you're really trying to you want to keep it local, go to the farmer's market. You know, really, you're putting money back into people that are your friends and neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you put money back into that. Alyssa gives free tours of the grocery store and explains that was a hard thing, is how to read a label at first to understand what you're looking at. I mean, if you have to struggle to say it, you should have made it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big thing, is you go there, you start paying attention, go online, do your research, and you start going to, like, we have the Southern Maryland Restaurant Week. There was just every restaurant around. I think I finally gave up after like restaurant number 5 because we were tasting food all over one day, and I thought, oh my gosh, Lord have mercy, I can't eat anymore. And that never happened.
It's a good problem to have.
It is.
We want that problem every day.
Yeah, but I mean, it's simple things. Just ask your local food.
Asking restaurants.
Yeah, restaurants just say, do you have this? I mean, for instance, the Slice Shop, is that what it's
The
called?
Slice House.
Slice House. The Slice House has a vegan option, you know, with their cheese. If you go to either one of the Ruddy Ducks, they have a huge vegan selection.
Yeah,
Different, like the Mexican restaurant in Huntingtown called Mexico, they will give you vegan options. And you just simply start to ask for this, and the more you ask and the more you're looking for a specific food, they're more than happy to help you. You just have to go in and ask.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like with Westlawn, I called ahead. Their chef is willing to do anything. They're just, and I mean, they're so accommodating and so wonderful. And I really love that restaurant because they were like one of the first ones that I really, you know, ventured out into. But Westlawn is good, CD Cafe. And okay, so we'll throw in a kick for myself. I do a yummy yoga class when the restaurant is open on like the last Sunday of the month. And we go to Stony Kingfisher on Solomon's Island. And there is a vegan brunch.
So great.
And when I say brunch, I mean tables
Yeah.
full. And it's just, yeah, it's an amazing, you know, Eric sets it up and stuff for us. And it just really, there's a lot of things out there.
It's awesome too because it brings people, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it brings people together to experience different things and talk about things too at the same time, because I think there's a lot of intimidation or uncertainty when you're interested in it, but you don't really know who to ask or talk to, or you don't really want to make an issue at a restaurant or think that it's going to be an issue. So with these certain events like Yummy Yoga, you can kind of just all come together no matter what stage you're on and try things, talk about things, ask questions, and it's in such a welcoming, safe environment. And I think more of that is happening.
Yeah.
But we just have to make it be
more and more and more and more and more so that we can't even keep up with it. But it is
Yeah.
mainstream, and I think the more that people are learning about everything and we're seeing about everything, it is becoming more of, okay, it's not just the weirdo vegans. Like, this is actually, it's here, so. we need to
We're not
embrace
all
it.
granola crunching,
Yeah.
doing whatever. And the thing is that we're out there. And again, take a look at the movie The Game Changers, and you will really be shocked. I mean, we're looking at really huge football players, and I mean, these guys are big, and they're vegan, and they are able to continue playing without sustaining injuries like other
It's
people
such a
have.
fascinating film.
And it's just
Talk about debunking,
it's just
myths.
debunking all sorts of myths.
especially from a fitness and athletic perspective. It's just like,
And again, I'm like, I don't care about my age. It's not a big deal. But in August, I'll be 59. I don't know very many 59-year-old women that go out and ride their bike for 6-7 hours and, then do it again the following weekend, to do this or, do 800, 1,000 miles in a month raising money for children's cancer. And there's just so much that you can do. And I'm not limited to sitting at home and, just
yeah.
waiting for the next, pill or the next, oh, is it time to take my medicine? Oh, I don't have time for that.
Mhm. Well, I'll wrap it up with one last question. What is your most coveted, can't live without vegan indulgence? And I know that there are so many, at least I could just spend an hour.
I know, I
talking
can
about
spend an
that.
hour. Okay, so my biggest vegan indulgence, okay, so I'll give you two.
I bet I could guess.
I bet you know what it is. First of all, my husband makes the most kick butt collard greens. They're just
Oh.
amazing. However, the other one is Gardein meatballs.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Gardein meatballs are just like, they're so awesome, and they're made with mushroom. And that's the other thing with, don't freak out about the whole soy thing. That's just, we're not eating tofu all the time. But yeah, Gardein meatballs. Gardein has just an amazing, they have these fishless sticks, I think, or fishless.
That was what my
like-
last video was on. It was the fishless taco or the fishless fillets.
Yeah,
And they
amazing.
smell just like your.
You'd never know.
I know.
Yeah, you'd never
Everything.
know. So yeah, Gardein is just like, they're
What about sweet wise? What's your favorite? Like,
sweet.
because I'm more of a savory, salty person.
Yeah, I'm a savory,
Like,
salty person.
Definitely salty in general, anyway. But
Okay,
not,
so
but
if
you're
you're-
sweet,
if you're a sweet
treat.
person,
yeah.
you can find this in Giant. You can go to Good Earth. Is Theo's. It's chocolate salted
Mhm.
caramel thingy. I don't know. It's a
candy
chocolate
bars?
bar. It's
Yeah.
a candy bar, and they're big, but those are really good. Now that I can, I like that. That I think is my favorite.
Mhm.
If I had to have something, and if I've used that. Yes, there are vegan marshmallows.
Oh, yeah.
So you get like the vegan graham crackers, and it's all Good Earth has
You can
everything.
veganize anything and everything at this
Mhm.
point. And that's the great thing too. Right here in Leonardtown, you have the Good Earth, or if you're over in Calvert, you have all of the supermarkets carry everything
Oh, yeah.
too. So no matter where you are in your area of Southern Maryland, there's certainly no issue with.
The two of us have had a whole day planned around going to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. So,
Yeah.
and if you find something that you like, there's always Amazon.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. It's a struggle because I absolutely want to promote local and love
Yeah.
the earth and moms if you're up in
If
Charles
Mom's is
County,
great, yeah.
Waldorf area if you're up there, and but it also it just is also I guess a testament to how much things are so mainstream now, that things
Yeah.
that you never thought that you would be able to find in grocery stores or your Targets or your Walmarts are just right there like
Target has
everything
a
else.
huge vegan
It's so
selection.
not trying to advocate per se, but I'm trying to just to really hone in on the fact that accessibility is not an issue. We're
No.
past that at this point.
No, and I really, I have to say, I really like to stay local, and if you're really into putting back into the community, definitely go to Good Earth, because whatever you can't find, they'll find it for you,
Yeah.
and they'll order it.
They are phenomenal. So support them as much as you can, and all of your local produce farmers, and
Yeah.
it just is, it really makes a world of difference. So I think I'll wrap it up there. We could talk so much.
I know, we gossip all the time, we
but
get on the
it's so
phone for hours.
And once we can all get together again, we'll be doing more things like the Yummy Yogas and getting together at restaurants. I want to do some more grocery store tours together.
Yeah.
I want to do, like vegan cheese and wine get-togethers, and bring a bunch of different vegan cheeses and have you guys sample them with, maybe at a winery, preferably here in Leonardtown, the Port of Leonardtown Winery. If you guys happen to watch this, we would love to do that. So things like that we can really kind of get together more and talk and not have it be so as intimidating. But as always, you can reach out to either one of us anytime, and you can get a hold of us through the Southern Maryland Vegan Restaurant Week page, or all over social media as well. She has a million different groups that she's involved into, so please follow her, because especially from yoga and fitness and everything, jump on and catch everything. I can't keep up with her. So I really thank you guys for watching, and we'll do more soon.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do like a yoga class.
Oh,
together or
boy.
something. Bye.
Bye.